Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
Well, Michael Fallon's personal attack on Ed Miliband was like one of the Defence Secretary's missiles, precise and planned. It is inconceivable that the Times article was not run through the Conservatives' campaign machine, every word chosen carefully. And 4 weeks from the vote, calling Ed Miliband a backstabber, backstabbing first his brother and now the British people over Trident, if there's a deal with the SNP, will this be the moment we will remember when this election got down and dirty? David Cameron and George Osborne readily endorsed Fallon's words. David Gauke has just done so too. Words Ed Miliband said demeaned the office of the Defence Secretary. So, as Labour is saying, is this a sign of Tory panic? Allegra Stratton investigates.
A row today over Trident, Britain's nuclear deterrent. The Tories charging that a Labour government in cahoots with the anti-Trident SNP would give up the weapons for control at Westminster.
Can you really trust him?
But today the Tories also pushed another button, just as dangerous. They went for the Labour leader's family. The nation couldn't trust Ed Miliband, they said, because even his own brother couldn't.
He'll do anything to get into power. We saw that when he fought his own brother for the leadership. The danger now for Britain is that he'll cobble together some backstairs deal with the SNP, which will result in higher taxes, more borrowing and weaker defence.
Many were aghast, thinking that the Prime Minister, today visiting a Bell factory, would have to call time on this negative outburst. But he didn't.
Michael Fallon is making a very important point. Labour are in confusion about what they're due with our deterrent, and we also know this, that Ed Miliband can only get to Downing Street on the back of SNP support, and the SNP are saying that saying no to Trident is a red line for them.
Michael Fallon's a decent man, but today I think he's demeaned himself and he's demeaned his office. And look, national security is too important to play politics with. I will never compromise our national security. I will never negotiate away our national security. And you know what? The Conservative Party can throw what they like at me, but I'm going to carry on concentrating on the issues that matter to the British people.
My Conservative sources are quite happy with how today's attack has gone. By making Michael Fallon the Defence Secretary and somebody not known for his gutter politics advance the attack, they believe the idea they're playing dirty politics just doesn't stick. Just 2 weeks into a long 6-week campaign, the Conservatives wanted to lodge firmly in people's minds that one Miliband brother knifed the other. Had they left it any later, one source told me, the worry would be that it would look increasingly desperate, like they thought they were losing the general election. Instead, by detonating both this and the Trident attack today, they think they've exploded some of their strongest attacks without harming themselves. One man instrumental in Margaret Thatcher's campaigns thinks today was standard general election fare.
I think that the poster of William Hague trying to look like Margaret Thatcher could hardly be called a piece of charm. I remember an ad we did, which was Michael Foot walking through Hampstead on a stick in his donkey jacket, and it said even pensioners are better off with the Conservatives, and Margaret wouldn't let me run that.
But Labour were delighted at what they thought was the Tory party panicking. They knew about an opinion poll published this evening that showed perhaps a breakthrough for Labour in the otherwise rigid opinion polls.
People feel that they're seeing a different Ed Miliband from the one they expected to. Now, admittedly, you know, this is from a very, very low bar, but things are improving, and we can see this very clearly across the board in the polls. We see his reputation improving by 10 points or more.
And then a Boris Johnson quote surfaced that perhaps shed light on the tactics of the Tories' election chief, Lynton Crosby. Here Johnson refers to him only as his Australian friend. "Let us suppose you're losing an argument," Johnson wrote. "Your best bet in these circumstances is to, quotes, throw a dead cat on the table, mate. The key point, says my Australian friend, is that everyone will shout, 'Geez, mate, there's a dead cat on the table.'" In other words, they'll be talking about the dead cat, the thing you want them to talk about, and they won't be talking about the issue that's been causing you so much grief.
It's an incredibly important issue for the Conservatives to raise on the campaign trail, whether Ed Miliband would trade away Britain's nuclear deterrent in coalition negotiations. I regret that instead of talking about that fundamental issue, because of the excessively personal nature of what Michael Fallon said about Ed Miliband, we're talking about that rather than the issue which really should worry voters.
Donkey jackets and demonised, the gallery of negative campaigning in Britain's elections is long. Actually, the majority of Tory MPs contacted by Newsnight thought today's attacks on Miliband were legitimate and illuminating. 2 opinion polls tonight put David Cameron's Tories ahead, but 2 behind, showing it's still tight. The Tories are trying to highlight to voters the risks of changing government, so the negativity will keep on coming. It could be enough for them to get back into government, but it won't be very pretty along the way.
Anna Lerger's with me now. What have you been hearing through the day? I mean, the more of the stuff that's not going to be very pretty.
Well, I spoke to Conservative MPs in marginal seats, people who were quite critical of David Cameron and Lynton Crosby and how they're running this campaign. They feel it's quite boring. But on this, they thought it was legitimate, that it highlighted a kind of question about Miliband's character. Now, there is a debate at the top of the Conservative Party about the nature of this campaign, but people who I've spoken to who are running it, they're aware of that debate, but they just think that their party has to stiffen its sinews and do it, that it's a narrow campaign, or rather it's a narrowly balanced election, and that you do just have to get your hands dirty. So they're aware that there are people who feel this isn't sort of sunlit uplands and exciting.
But I mean, it takes, isn't it all about what the voters really despise about politics?
There is an awareness in Conservative HQ that you can't make people feel guilty about voting for the Conservatives. So that's why, for instance, we're probably hearing a bit about volunteering tomorrow. I'm not sure that cuts through over and above the Defence Secretary talking about Ed Miliband. So they are aware of that, but they think on this, they're on the right side of the divide. We have to see in a month's time.